on your conviction on count 1, first-degree felony aggravated murder. The court hereby sentences you to life without parole.
Park City, Utah, a mountain community 40 miles southeast of Salt Lake City. The kind of place where people move to raise families, build businesses, and live quietly. In March 2022, a 39-year-old man named Kouri Richins was found dead in his bedroom. His wife told police she woke in the early hours of the morning and discovered him cold and unresponsive at the foot of their bed. She called 911. First responders arrived, and the official record at that moment described a sudden and unexplained death.
Okay, so not recently.
They had a negative test, so I was the last positive, and then he had it, so his last negative test was a week ago.
What investigators would uncover over the next 14 months was something far more calculated. This is the crime log. Today's case, the Kouri Richins murder investigation. If you are new here, subscribe now and drop a comment telling us where you are watching from. Now let us get into it. Kouri Eugene Richins was born May 13, 1982 in Bountiful, Utah. The oldest of 3 children, he grew up working on his family's cattle ranch, hauling hay, mending fences, learning early what it meant to build something with your hands. He later served a 2-year LDS mission in Mexico City, returned fluent in Spanish, and earned a degree in international studies from the University of Utah. He then did what people who knew him said he always did. He built something from scratch. C&E stone masonry became a successful business. Kouri ran it. He coached his son's sports teams. He showed up. By all accounts from friends, family, and colleagues, he was the kind of person who was exactly who he appeared to be. His father, Eugene, worked the family ranch alongside him for years. His sister, Katie Benson, described him as someone she talked to constantly. If anything was happening in Kouri's life, he would call her. Kouri had been married once before, and that marriage had ended. When he met Kouri Darden around 2009, she was working as a cashier at a Home Depot in Park City, where his crew regularly bought supplies. Something clicked. They married on June 15, 2013 in the backyard of their home in Camas, a small mountain town near Park City. They had 3 sons, Carter, Ashton, Weston. From the outside, the Richins family looked settled and stable. The picture, however, had cracks that were not immediately visible. The marriage came with a prenuptial agreement. Under its terms, a divorce would leave Kouri with significantly less than Kouri. He would retain the primary assets. She would walk away with far less financial security. But the prenup carried a different clause for a different scenario. If Kouri died while they were still married, Kouri stood to claim substantially more, including 50% of his masonry business. The distinction between those two outcomes, divorce versus death, sits at the center of everything that followed in this case. What investigators would eventually establish is that Kouri Richins understood that distinction and, at some point, decided to act on it. Kouri was born April 20th, 1990. She was 22 when she and Kouri married. In 2019, she launched her own house-flipping business, Kouri Richins Realty. A forensic accountant who later testified at trial described the company's finances as a relentless debt cycle. Between 2019 and 2022, Kouri had accumulated over $1.8 million in debt to hard money lenders. Separately, Kouri's sister filed a petition alleging that Kouri had misused approximately $494,000 of Kouri's money over this period. In 2019, she had also taken out a $250,000 home equity line of credit without Kouri's knowledge. She purchased an unfinished 20,000-square-foot mansion for $3.9 million, a project Kouri's family stated he strongly opposed. The real estate business that appeared successful on the surface was, in the forensic accountant's words, imploding. A friend testified at trial that during this period, Kouri told her she felt trapped in the marriage. The reason she gave: the prenuptial agreement. If they divorced, Kouri would be financially secure. She would not be. She worried the children might even prefer to live with him. The same witness described Kouri saying that it would simply be better if Eric were dead. Those words were entered into evidence at trial. In early 2020, a man named Robert Josh Grossman entered the picture. A U.S. Army veteran who had served in Iraq, Grossman was working as a handyman in South Carolina when he responded to a job listing posted by Kouri's real estate company. He relocated to Utah. Their professional relationship became a romantic one around early 2020, while Kouri was still married to Eric. Kouri let Grossman live in homes she was renovating. She bought him 2 trucks. She gave him money regularly. He testified at trial that she loved him and that he loved her. Prosecutors displayed their text messages on the courtroom screen. Roughly 2 weeks before Eric's death, Kouri sent Grossman a message. It read, "If he could just go away and you could just be here, life would be so perfect. I love you." She had also written separately about fantasizing over leaving Eric, gaining millions from the marriage, and eventually marrying Grossman. On the stand, Grossman wiped his eyes when those messages appeared on screen. He said, after Kouri's arrest, he looked back at their entire relationship through a different set of eyes and was trying to determine whether she had actually done it.
I got my phone. It's maybe 3.
About 3.
Maybe 15.
Did you immediately call the 911?
Yeah, well, I got up and, as soon as I turned over and he was cold, I just felt like something was wrong. So, I just put the blanket on it because I just thought my room's cold. So I just...
What Kouri did not know or did not fully understand was that Eric had been quietly responding to the deteriorating situation. In October 2020, more than a year before his death, Eric consulted both a divorce attorney and an estate planning lawyer. He formed the Eric Richins Living Trust. It placed his estate under the control of his sister, Katie Benson, for the benefit of his 3 children in the event of his death. He restructured his business insurance, removing Kouri as beneficiary and naming the trust instead. Eric believed Kouri could monitor his email, so he used his brother-in-law, Clint Benson, as a go-between with the divorce attorney to avoid her seeing the communication. He was methodically cutting off her financial access. But the process was not complete, and the window he needed was closing faster than he knew. The parallel timeline on Kouri's side is documented in court records. Between 2015 and 2017, she had taken out multiple life insurance policies on Eric's life, without his knowledge. By the time of his death, those policies totaled approximately $2.2 million in coverage. In January 2022, she applied for one more. This one carried Eric's signature. Investigators would later establish that the signature was forged. That policy was activated approximately 10 days before Valentine's Day 2022. Around the same time she was acquiring the final policy, she was also acquiring something else. In early February 2022, Kouri approached her housekeeper, Carmen Lauber, and asked her to source pain pills, telling her they were for an investor. Lauber obtained them. Days before Valentine's Day, Kouri came back with a different request. She wanted something stronger. When Lauber offered to obtain fentanyl, Kouri agreed. Investigators later established that Kouri had separately approached 2 people asking for what she described as the Michael Jackson drug. She was not familiar with street terminology for the drug, but she knew Michael Jackson had died from a substance administered to him, and she wanted something with the same outcome. Lauber purchased approximately 20 pills from a dealer named Robert Crozier for $1,000 and handed them to Kouri. The delivery was made. The preparations were in place. February 14, 2022. Valentine's Day that evening, Kouri gave Eric a sandwich. Shortly after eating it, Eric became seriously ill. He called 2 of his friends that day. He told them directly that he believed his wife had tried to poison him. He also told members of his family. A family spokesman would later summarize Eric's words to investigators, "If I die, you need to take a look at her, because I think she is trying to kill me." Kouri, when she spoke to investigators, offered a different explanation. Eric had suffered an allergic reaction, she said, pointing to the fact that he had an allergy doctor on record. Eric survived. What Kouri Richins did next is one of the most documented and consequential decisions in this case. He did not report the incident to police. His sister Amy had begged him to leave. He would not go. According to statements made to prosecutors, Eric's reasoning was specific. He believed that leaving the home would place his children at even greater risk. A man who believed his wife had just tried to kill him chose to remain under the same roof. He stayed for his sons. 17 days passed. On February 26th, Kouri returned to Carmen Lauber and purchased another supply of fentanyl for $900. In total, across all transactions, Lauber later testified she had sold Kouri up to 90 blue-green fentanyl pills. Lauber was subsequently granted immunity by investigators in exchange for her full cooperation. The evening of March 3, 2022, Kouri told Eric they were celebrating. She had just closed on a property, she said. She made him a cocktail, a Moscow Mule, in the kitchen and brought it to their bedroom. Eric drank it. He also consumed a THC gummy that evening. What happened inside that house over the next several hours became the subject of conflicting accounts. Kouri's account, given to investigators, was that one of the boys had a night terror, and she spent the rest of the evening in his room, returning to the master bedroom in the early morning hours to find Eric unresponsive. What the children remembered was different. The boys had been put to bed earlier than usual that night, without their regular bath routine. The master bedroom door was locked. The television inside was audible through the door. Ashton, the middle son, tried to open the door. He found the spare key above the doorframe, reached for it, made noise. He was told through the closed door to go away. Kouri came to his room later and asked what he needed. He pretended to be asleep. Weston, the youngest, who routinely slept in his parents' bed, also found the door locked. He ended up sleeping in his brother's room. Ashton's account, the child Kouri claimed she had been with, placed her inside the locked master bedroom the entire time. His version of events did not align with hers at any point. At approximately 3:22 a.m. on March 4, 2022, Kouri called 911. She told the dispatcher she had found Eric cold at the foot of their bed. First responders arrived. Eric Eugene Richins, 39 years old, father of 3, was pronounced dead. The medical examiner's autopsy produced findings that would become the forensic foundation of the entire case. Eric's cause of death was fentanyl intoxication. The concentration of fentanyl in his blood was approximately 5 times the recognized lethal threshold.
9:30? Okay.
9:45.
And then what alerted you to him today, right now?
I just woke up. When I sleep with my kids, I'll wake up and I go back to my own bed.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Is there any family members we can call right now?
Yeah, I need to call my mom. I need to call my mom so bad.
Okay.
I think I don't know. 911's on the phone. I don't know.
Here. Okay.
I told my mom. I don't know. Something's wrong with Eric. The police came down here. It's like, I don't know what's happening. He wasn't breathing. I don't know. Eric.
Where's he at? I'm on my way.
And then when did you discover him? What time?
I got my phone. It's maybe 3.
About 3.
3:15.
Did you immediately call the 911?
Yeah, well, I got up and, as soon as I turned over and he was cold,
Mm-hmm.
I just felt like something was wrong. So, I just put the blanket on it because I just thought my room's cold. So I just...
The investigation that followed ran for 14 months. Detective Jeff O'Driscoll of the Summit County Sheriff's Office led the criminal investigation. Simultaneously, Eric's sister Katie had engaged private investigator Todd Gabler in March 2022, initially to support the trust litigation. The 2 tracks proceeded in parallel. and fed into a growing body of evidence. Cell phone location data placed Kouri in the geographic vicinity of the pill pickup locations on dates that corresponded precisely with the transactions Carmen Lauber described. Financial forensics traced the insurance scheme, the multiple policies, the forged signature, the claims submitted after Eric's death. The forensic accountant reconstructed Kouri Richins Realty's finances and confirmed what the numbers showed. The business was unsustainable and collapsing under debt. Kouri had submitted insurance claims to 2 companies after Eric's death and received approximately $1.3 million in payouts before her arrest. Under Utah's Slayer statute, which prevents any person from financially benefiting from a death they caused, those funds would later be subject to full restitution orders. What investigators also recovered was Kouri's phone search history. In the period following Eric's death, her searches included: what is a lethal dose of fentanyl? Luxury prisons for the rich. How is poisoning recorded on a death certificate? Can police compel a lie detector test? How long do life insurance companies take to pay claims? Can deleted text messages be retrieved? When does the FBI take jurisdiction over a case? The prosecution presented these searches to the jury as evidence of state of mind. The defense argued they reflected someone frightened and researching her own situation. The jury would later weigh that question alongside everything else. 14 months after Eric's death on May 8, 2023, Kouri Richins was arrested. The timing carried its own weight. In the weeks before her arrest, she had appeared on a local Utah television station to promote a children's picture book she had written and published. The book was titled, "Are You With Me?" Its subject was a child who loses his father and wonders whether his father remains present through the important moments of his life. She hired a ghostwriter to produce it. She dedicated it to her amazing husband and a wonderful father. On television, she described Eric's death as unexpected. The book was eventually removed from Amazon. Kouri was charged with aggravated murder, attempted aggravated murder, 2 counts of insurance fraud, and forgery. Bail was denied. She has remained in custody since her arrest. She also faces a separate 26-count felony case related to mortgage fraud, money laundering, forgery, and financial crimes connected to her real estate business. Those charges were not part of the murder trial. The trial opened February 23, 2026, in Summit County, Utah. Judge Richard Mrazik presided. The proceeding ran across 13 days of testimony. Prosecutors called more than 40 witnesses. The witness list included Carmen Lauber, who testified across 2 full days about the drug transactions in detail. It included Robert Josh Grossman, who testified about the affair and the messages exchanged between him and Kouri. It included the forensic accountant who reconstructed the business finances. It included the divorce attorney and estate planner Eric had consulted. It included Detective O'Driscoll. It included insurance professionals who traced the policies and the fraud. Prosecutors organized their case around 4 pillars: the financial motive, the drug acquisition chain, the physical and forensic evidence from the autopsy, and the digital evidence. The texts, the search history, and the phone location data. Chief Prosecutor Brad Bloodworth, in closing arguments, told the jury directly, Kouri Richins asked for the Michael Jackson drug because she knew what it did. She murdered her husband for money, to sustain the image of success she had built around herself while her business collapsed beneath it. The defense, led by attorneys Kathy Nestor and Wendy Lewis, pushed back. Nestor told jurors in her opening statement that the prosecution would spend weeks trying to convince them Kouri had reasons to kill Eric because they could not show she actually did it. The defense raised the possibility that Eric had a history of painkiller use and that the fentanyl may have entered his system through means other than what the prosecution alleged. The defense called no witnesses. Kouri did not testify. On March 16, 2026, the jury returned after approximately 3 hours, guilty on all 5 counts: aggravated murder, attempted aggravated murder, 2 counts of insurance fraud, forgery. The defense moved to delay sentencing. Judge Mrazik denied the request. Sentencing was confirmed for May 13, 2026. The date was not chosen arbitrarily. May 13th would have been Eric Richins' 44th birthday. In the weeks before sentencing, prosecutors filed a detailed memorandum that contained, for the first time publicly, statements submitted on behalf of Eric and Kouri's 3 sons. Carter, 13, described his father as a person who was consistently kind and helpful to others. He also told the court he was afraid of what Kouri might do if she were ever released. He said he did not miss the life the family had lived before her arrest. He did not refer to Kouri as his mother. Ashton described the future, the coaching sessions, the games, the birthdays, the driving lessons, the graduations, the camping and fishing trips. Each one something Eric would not be present for. He said that for the first time since Kouri's incarceration, he felt genuinely safe. Weston, the youngest, who was still in preschool when his father died, said he remembered being frightened the night it happened. He said the prospect of Kouri being released frightened him still. All 3 asked the judge for a life sentence. The sentencing memorandum also disclosed, for the first time in any public document, that the Utah Division of Child and Family Services had supported findings of emotional and physical abuse by Kouri against Carter following Eric's death. That finding was contained in a sealed court record. The memorandum further documented a pattern of conduct by Kouri after her arrest. She had allegedly physically confronted Eric's sister Amy 2 days after his death, when Amy raised the matter of the living trust. She challenged that trust within 4 days of Eric dying. She told Eric's grieving father that his son had died from the same mold-related illness that had previously taken his father's own wife. From jail, she allegedly wrote a letter directing family members to release photographs of Eric's relatives to the media, using hostile language about his sisters. When confronted, she described the letter as fiction, part of a book she claimed to be writing about her incarceration. Prosecutors also documented alleged efforts to push federal firearms complaints against Eric's father, false child welfare complaints against his sister, and a bar complaint against the lead prosecutor. 6 weeks after the guilty verdict, a message allegedly sent by Kouri from custody was submitted to the court. In it, she stated she intended to expose the prosecution, the judge, the county, and Eric's family. She wrote that sentencing was not a conclusion. She wrote that it was only the beginning. Sentencing proceeded on May 13, 2026. The defense presented character witnesses, including individuals who had no prior relationship with either party, and a woman whose own father had received life without parole for her mother's murder. Someone who asked the judge to leave open the possibility of parole in the event the children's positions changed over time. Some statements were read anonymously, given the public profile of the case. Kouri then addressed the court for approximately 30 minutes. Her remarks were directed to her sons. She told them the conviction was completely wrong. She maintained she had not taken a life. She acknowledged the affair, but said Eric had also been unfaithful. She told the boys their parents' love had never failed, and told them to be like their father. She stated she had been prevented from contacting her sons since April 2024. No calls, no Christmas cards. She said her appeal would be for them. During the victim impact statements from Eric's family, multiple journalists and court TV personnel present in the courtroom observed Kouri making expressions and rolling her eyes. Judge Richard Mrazik delivered his ruling. He stated that the evidence showed a person who had attempted to kill her husband, failed, spent 17 days not reconsidering but continuing to prepare, and then completed the act through poison for financial gain. He sentenced Kouri Richins to life in prison without the possibility of parole on the aggravated murder conviction. All remaining counts were ordered to run consecutively. Her attorneys immediately indicated they would seek a new trial. The judge granted a 28-day extension to file. As of today, Kouri Richins is serving a life sentence at a Utah correctional facility. Her legal team has pledged to appeal. The separate 26-count fraud case remains unresolved. In November 2024, a juvenile court formally placed Eric's 3 sons in the care of their aunt, Katie Benson, and her husband Clint. The children have been in intensive therapeutic support since Kouri's arrest. The case that began with a 911 call in the early hours of March 4, 2022, moved through 14 months of investigation, a trial spanning 13 days of testimony, and a sentencing hearing held on what would have been the victim's birthday. Every layer of evidence that emerged, the prenuptial agreement, the insurance policies, the forged signature, the drug acquisition, the phone searches, the text messages, pointed toward a decision that had been in motion for years before that night. Eric Richins had sensed something was wrong. He told his family, he restructured his estate, he stayed anyway for his sons. His oldest son is 13 now. He goes to school every day wearing his father's clothes. When the appeal produces a ruling, the crime log will be here to cover it. Subscribe if this is the standard of coverage you are looking for. Drop a comment telling us where you are watching from. We will see you on the next case.